Civil rights for African Americans have been a struggle in many parts of the nation, including Bloomington Normal. But the first black city council political candidate in Bloomington came 16 years before women gained the right to vote in Illinois. In this episode of our series, McHistory, you'll hear about that first African American candidate. He was a veteran, activist, member of a literary society, doorman at the state capitol, and a barber.
Black Republicans. The colored voters of Bloomington unite in mass meeting and assert their rights. Richard Blue, colored, nominated for alderman of the 3rd Ward.
Richard Blue's remarkable life really speaks to the trials and also the triumphs of black Americans in the 19th and 20th centuries. The limitations they faced socially, politically, economically, and yet the ability not only to navigate this unjust world they face, but to succeed.
I am Andrew Thomas, the chairperson for the Bloomington Normal Black History Project.
This is Bill Kemp, librarian at the McLean County Museum of History.
The Pantograph, Bloomington, Illinois, Wednesday, March 12, 1879.
Richard Blue was born in the 1840s in Dayton, Ohio. His entire childhood was part of the Judge James Rayburn family, a prominent white family in the Dayton area. The Rayburn family then settles in McLean County in the early 1850s, an Old Town township just east of Bloomington. Richard Blue, who is 9 years old at that time, is listed as farm laborer for the family.
Last evening was the occasion of the annual colored political mass meeting, which came off at Mount Pisgah Colored Baptist Church in accordance with the announcements made at the colored churches last Sunday.
With the emergence of the Civil War, Richard Blue will enlist in the 29th U.S. Colored Infantry. Because he had sustained a foot injury on the farm, he was assigned to be a musician for the infantry regiment.
The Pantograph reporter and one or two of the headlights of the party straggled into the church a little before 8 o'clock and found at the hour but a very small number present. The audience was composed of both white and black, with here and there a few females dotted through the audience who came out of idle curiosity to see and hear what the colored voters might do and say preparatory to the spring election.
After the war, by 1866, he becomes a barber, and he spends his entire adult life living in the 300 block of South Madison, just south of downtown Bloomington, kind of where the warehouse district begins.
Mr. Richard Blue, who presented some very good and sensible remarks referring to the necessity of the colored people being united together in one political party. If they ever expect to obtain anything in the distribution of office at the hands of city council, they must be united as one man.
He was very active in local, state, and national Republican politics. We need to remember that in the decades after the Civil War, black Americans primarily aligned themselves with the Republican Party. The Republican Party, after all, was the party of Abraham Lincoln, the party of the Emancipation Proclamation. In 1879, though, there's some unrest in the black community. They wanted a share of the offices because they had been loyal supporters of the Republican Party. So Richard Blue is nominated as city alderman in Bloomington in the 3rd Ward.
Whereas we, the colored people of the city and Bloomington, in mass meeting assembled for the discussion of political topics, looking to the further elevation of our race, consider that positions of trust are the places that raise or lower the standard of men.
The Pantograph doesn't endorse him, but does acknowledge that Richard Blue had a good education and practical experience and would no doubt, if elected, serve the people of his ward with credit, but nonetheless, William W. Stevenson will run away with the election. We will have to wait 100 years, a full century, 1979, until a black resident, that would be Eva Jones, is elected to the Bloomington City Council.
committee consisting of Misters Blue, Hill, and Collins was appointed to craft resolutions which would embody the feeling and political sentiment of the meeting. The committee prepared and reported the following resolutions, which were adopted.
He was a member of the Afro-American League, which is a national organization and that fought racial terror, brought up the issue of lynching in the Deep South. And Richard Blue was involved in that and in educating people in the North about what was happening.
The color of the skin should not be the slightest objection, as God did not intend all to be black or white. Neither did he intend all to speak one language.
He will pass away in 1921, and the Pantograph note that he is one of Bloomington's oldest and most highly respected citizens. And the Bloomington Bulletin, a Democratic paper, will note admiringly that Richard Blue was a staunch and influential Republican.
Therefore be it resolved that united we stand, divided we fall. Be it further resolved that we offer men of our own race to fill positions of trust and honor. Resolve that as the colored men were loyal to the government in time of war, so in peace we will be true to our trust and honest with our fellow men.
Bill Kemp and Andrew Thomas of the McLean County Museum of History. The character of Richard Blue will be presented as part of this year's Evergreen Cemetery Walk on September 30th. It'll also be October 1st, 7th, and 8th at 11 and 2 each weekday. The series McHistory is a co-production of WGLT and the museum. Charlie Schlenker produced the episode.